I learned something really early on about the event piece, which is that if you can plug into something that's already happening, do that. Because then you don't have to start everything from scratch.
Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Welcome, everyone, to another amazing episode of Referrals Podcast. I have a question for you. How would you like to learn how to make money making money? Would you like to learn how to make money making money? What if I could share with you a lead generation strategy that would literally pay you before you got the leads or referrals? Would you be interested in that? That's what we're talking about today, is how do you make money making money? Now, is it all about making money? No, it's not. But if you could have a lead generation strategy that you could make money off of before you even started, would that be a good thing? Anybody paying you to cold call? Anybody paying you to door knock? Is anybody paying you to run ads on Facebook? Anybody paying you for Zillow leads? Are they paying you? Zillow paying you? Think about a lead generation method where they pay you to generate leads and referrals for you. That's powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to dive deep into today. We have an expert. Before I bring Aubrey on, I've got to give a shout out to one of our RMA ambassadors. Nikki Rodeo said, so I missed some days of November. That was our challenge last month because I was on vacation, but I'm glad that I can go back and watch the videos, which is one of the perks of Referral Mastery Academy. This is all possible because of RMA. Joining was the best move for my career by far. Nikki, I appreciate that very much. 1% inspiration, 99% your perspiration. Good job on that. I appreciate that. And then quickly, just so everybody knows, in RMA, we have 30 mornings starting on actually January 1st. Just happens to be a Monday this year. How perfect is that? You can get your morning routine in place with our certified mornings coaches, Paulie Dominich and Angela Gribbins, included for our RMA members, or you can register at 30mornings.com as the co-author of Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. You will learn all the elements of the Miracle Morning plus 3 to 6 others, plus all the technology and apps that you can use to hone in and master your mornings. No more mayhem in the AHAM. You're going to go from chaos to clarity, and you can do that on 30mornings.com. 30-day challenge, 30 days getting coached by the 2 best certified morning coaches in America. We love them. Paulie and Angela, you're going to love them too. Speaking of loving people, let's talk about our guest today. We've got a rock star in the house. It's a realtor from Hillsboro, Oregon, just a quick 20-minute hop from the lively streets of Portland. Originally an East Coaster, she traded skyscrapers for the laid-back vibes of the Pacific Northwest in 2017. Aubrey Martin is the CEO and founder of the Martin Family Real Estate Group. Her entire family is involved in the business, including her husband, kids, and the dog, Buddha, who, of course, is in charge of public relations. I had to double-check that spelling and pronunciation before we got going. Aubrey is not just a realtor. She's a community champion, weaving a strong commitment to the local spirit into the fabric of her business. Evidence of her dedication is scattered across numerous client events and impactful give back initiatives. Welcome to Referrals Podcast, Aubrey Martin. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming on. And I love everything you're doing, and I can't wait to dive into it. And so we're going to actually just kind of do that. Sometimes I'll ask about background and so on and so forth, but I want to just go to the nuts and bolts of this. And you've had a lot of success using a couple of elements, and that is networking and events. So what made you decide to use networking and events to grow your business?
So when I started real estate in 2017, I was a new transplant to Portland, Oregon area. I had lived here before, but not for many years. And when I came back, I didn't know anybody anymore. So when I started real estate, a new career for me, I wanted to stick with these legs of lead generation that I thought that I would commit to and like. And so the first thing that I started doing was I joined a women's networking group called the Mob, Mother-Owned Businesses, which back in New York City means something a little differently than it did out here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But that was where I started. And these were women specifically in the service industry. Women who had built their careers as contractors, window installers, cleaners, etc. My mother was an engineer back in New York City, one of the first really of her kind back when she started. And so I have a heart really for finding women specifically in the service industry. And so when I joined Mob, what I decided to do was to invite each of these women into my office. And it was just a half-hour tea. Not for them to learn about my business, but for me specifically to learn about their business and how I could promote them and who their service areas, where their service areas were. And that really grew into something enormous, something that was not as, it was not something that I thought a lot about before doing it. I just thought this is a good way for me to get to know community members. But what it became is what we'll be talking about.
So I love that. And definitely you could probably not get away with a networking group called Mob. You can get away with it in the Pacific Northwest, but maybe not on the East Coast. So interesting title of that. How did you find that in the first place? How did you find Mob?
So when you're new to an area, I think I did what a lot of people do is found it on social media and was very active on Facebook at the time, still am, and really just joined a lot of just community groups in general, wanted to connect with other people in the community who had children around the same age, who, did the same sort of activities that I liked to do. And then, of course, went looking for this category of women in business. And so that's where I started.
Yeah, love that. And were there any other realtors in the group? Just curious.
There were, and there still are. I would say I don't know any who have been as active as I have with that group. And yes, it was not category restricted. I am part of another group that is category restricted, but that was not one of them. And I think the one thing, of course, is that you can't be everything to everybody. Right. And so you just have to figure out what it is that makes you really click and do well, and then just commit to that at a very high level.
Yeah, I think the commitment's huge, right? I was going to ask you, so what made you stand out in that group that also included some realtors, but also you were new to the area. So what are some things you did in that very first group that you think you did really well?
Well, first of all, I showed up.
Yeah.
I went to the events. I was asked to do a presentation on market in the market of the moment, and so I would put myself out there as being the expert, and really would jump into anything that I could do to support that effort. The other thing that I did, which again is something I had always done previously, but really doubled down on, was whenever there was a closing with one of these providers, I would make sure that everybody that had anything to do with that closing is tagged and promoted on social media. And I think that the reason I stood out was because I made a concerted effort from day one to make this about me providing service for them. How can I be of service to you? Not what are you going to give me? And the more I focused on their business and promoting them, the more the business kept coming back to me.
Love it. I love it. I always say when I'm teaching networking that there's kind of these 4 A's that really can help you when you're looking to be a success in any networking group. Is, number one is a tie. They're all kind of similar in alliteration, but it's a tire, right? It look like a professional, wear your name badge, on the right side. Do your hair, that kind of thing. Don't wear golf shorts to a networking function early, right? And then you've got attitude. Like if your attitude is to go in and just get business, or you're looking to take, you're not going to have any success in that group. If your attitude is the generosity generation, which is what we prescribe to, right? If your attitude is to see how you can help versus how they're going to help you, you're going to have more success. Spirit of helpfulness, spirit of generosity, spirit of giving is the way to go into it. And then you've got attendance. You got to show up. You've got to go and go every time. And then, the last one is attention, like pay attention, don't be there on your phone and that kind of thing. And like literally pay attention, I think is so critical in networking, especially if your attitude is right, because you're going to be looking for opportunities to help. And a lot of times those opportunities to help turn out much bigger for you in terms of opportunity that actually help you, because you were just looking to help the others. It comes back 10 times to you. So, those are kind of the four Ats or the 4 A's of kind of that networking. And it sounds like that's exactly a lot of what you were doing is pouring into them. And you had your attitude right, your attire right, you attended, and yet you were paying attention, looking for ways to help.
And also, Michael, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
These people became my friends, and I want to see them succeed so that it helps them put food on the table for their families. And I think really diving into that was really critical to, kind of the explosion of my business, this business to business specifically. And I know we're going to dive more deeply into that piece, but I do have an event that is just specifically for my service providers, just to thank them for their year of service. And it's an incredibly rewarding thing to be able to do. Yeah,
I love that. And all right, so I did notice one thing that you said is all right. So you got into the mob, and it's only a half hour. It's a half hour tea. Is that what the mob was, or was it you went to those events and then you hosted a half hour tea at your office? We talk about we and they events, right? They events are events that are hosted by other people, right? So you go to they event. Networking is, for the most part, they events. And then you invite them to your we events. And we don't have any I events. It's only we events. We events are you and your sponsor partners are hosting an event that you are inviting people to, right? And it sounds like you kind of had the they event was the mob, and then you had a we event for the people who could make that. And it was just a half hour tea at your office?
Correct. Networking events were a they event put on by other people. I would also, though, try to host those they events as much as I could for the organization at my office. But yes, you're entirely correct. It was a they event, and then they were we events, so that those were just one-to-one meetings. Oh, so the half hour teas were literally one-to-ones. This wasn't even they event where there were 100 and you invited 20. It was you were doing an event to one-to-ones. That's right. Oh, I love that. So how many one-to-ones would you have? And what it became is something on my website, martinfamilyrealestate.com. You can look at my directories, and all the people on those directories, those are the people that I have all the one-to-ones with. So they're either people that I've worked with many times throughout the years. I have a general contractor now that I use for all of my listings and all of my repair addenda, et cetera. If it's not people that I've worked with directly, then it's someone that I've had at least 3 clients or community members have good success with. But those are my directories, and they became what was the culmination of those one-to-ones. And I, by the way, Michael, still have them. Mm-hmm. I don't have as many as I used to because I'm busier now, but I still absolutely have them because I'm always looking for good people. And the great thing about being in real estate specifically is that we are sort of the center of referrals for other people. People ask me for things all the time that have absolutely nothing to do with real estate, but that's what we want. We want to be that person who's always top of mind. So, there was that, I think they've renamed themselves, but it was Angie's List. Mm-hmm. I like to think of myself as Aubrey's. You got Aubrey's List. I love it. Mm-hmm. You got your own yellow pages on your website. And I love that. And what a great way to help others 24/7.
whereas sometimes you'll just be helping when you get called upon or somebody needs something. This way, it is out there working 24/7. And honestly, with your surrounding community, it could be like, man, I want to be on Aubrey's list. And by the way, if you don't call that Aubrey's list, that top's got to be Aubrey's list or something. you got to come up with something
clever
above and beyond director.
And I am not private about that list. When someone in one of these social media groups has, needs something, whether they're a homeowner or not, whether there's a potential for business or not, my phrasing always is the same.
That's right.
I'm looking for window replacement. Okay, well, they're obviously a homeowner. I refer my clients, my real estate clients, to Serenity Windows. So this way, people are always connecting me with being a real estate agent, and I'm also referring someone who does excellent work.
Yeah, and just think about being that communication or that connector hub, and the communication that has to be had around those connections. So you don't just you connect for the referral, and then you got to connect after the, how'd it go? How, did that, or they rave about how great Serenity was, or whatever it may be. And it just leads to this more communication. But the other thing that directory or Aubrey's list has really done too is that it's raised your capacity to help in general. You don't just have you and your talents and your treasure, you have all the talents and treasures of an entire community of service providers. It's brilliant, Aubrey. I absolutely love that. And all right. So what does, and man, I'll tell you what, I could have a whole nother episode on what you did at the half hour teas. I'm the top of the 7 levels of communication, right from my book, is a pyramid. At the top is one-to-one meetings, right? So that's an important piece of this as well. But before I leave that, let me just ask one question about the 30-minute teas. How many were you doing in a week as you were building up your business? And then how many are you doing now?
Yes, that's a great question. In my first year of real estate, you're really just sort of hustling, and I was doing a lot of open houses and all of that on weekends. And then in between the time, I didn't have a lot going on, so I would do as many networking events as possible. The one-to-ones, I would try to think of that as my lead generation block. Because again, that if you're going to commit to that as lead generation, then it's not extra. So my lead generation block has always been the same. It's from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday, and has been, for 7 years. And that's what it was then too. And so I would strive then for 3 one-to-ones every day. And then have kind of a half an hour, 15 minutes or something in between to just check in on some other things, regardless of kind of how long that meeting went. But 3, so about 15 a week. I mean, It was a lot. And not all of them, Michael, to be honest, turned out to be great fits for me. Yeah. I was trying to think about what would be helpful for the community. What would they be looking for? How did they present themselves? And then also I did reference checks before they went in the directory. So it was kind of a big undertaking. At this point, I probably meet maybe once a week at this point when I find someone, again, that's come referred to me by someone else. They say, hey, I know you've got a couple of movers in your directories. I had this amazing experience with this moving company. And then I schedule a time on Zoom or in person to still meet with them.
Well, you nailed. I mean, what you just showed is the definition of mastery. You start out with 15, and you're doing 15 a week. You've got more time than money, right? So you're spending the time to earn the money, and I'm sure that went 15, and then 10, and then 8, and then 5, and now it's 1 to 3, but I'm guessing those 1 to 3 are ultra high quality. And you're never wasting time, energy, effort, or money from those. And in the beginning, you did those, and thank God you did them in the beginning, because you learned how to have a great one-to-one. You learned who a good partner was very, very quickly. I absolutely love that. I've got to give a shout out to we're right in the middle of one-to-one mastery. It's a course that I'm teaching right now. I hope one-to-one mastery, folks. I hope you just listen to the last 5 minutes of what we just covered, because that's one-to-one mastery. That's that's why we do them. I just love what you said. I love the brilliance of that. And you substituted it. It was your lead gen, and so instead of, cold calling or door knocking or doing the other things that you can do, you did something and you were enjoying it. But I mean, it may be the best lead gen because you're also becoming you're becoming so involved in the community so quickly that it's like you weren't a foreigner. You're in 3 months, you weren't from New York anymore. You were an establishment in the business community in Hillsborough or Portland area, right? Specifically Hillsborough. I mean, I'm guessing you saw that happen like pretty fast. Like you,
it was
people,
so it was so fast.
Yeah, you became
it was
a
like a
connector.
rocket. I think my first year in real estate, I sold 12 homes, which, is a lot, I think, for a first year agent. But after that, it was 45, then 59, then 75, and I'm an individual agent. So my time is really valuable, but I got really good about figuring out who was going to be a good fit. And also they were training me how to refer them. Right. What is the best way to refer them? Who are they looking for? What is their service area? And I think I really appreciate those first folks so much while I was trying to find my way to figure out really how I could help them.
Well, so how did you know networking was working? Or when did you know? Like, when did the aha come with networking? You're like, you know what? I mean, because you could have done the first 15 and probably didn't get much from it other than knowledge, right? When did you know networking was working?
I think when I realized that about in my second year in real estate, that about 85% of my business was coming from networking and referrals. Wow. And when you're in real estate, you've only been doing it for whatever that was, 12, 15 months. The idea of getting referrals, there are no referrals from past clients because you don't really have any past clients. So
right. And no repeat clients,
no repeat
and
clients,
no
right?
sphere. I hope everybody's hearing this, right? No sphere, just like when I started, no sphere, right? We didn't know anybody.
Didn't know anybody, but this is the way to get to know people on a real basis. And the other thing I wanted to throw in there as well is that even for my son's soccer game, for example, I never saw that necessarily as a networking event because I'm just watching my kid's soccer game. But that I knew exactly what the data was for that week of list to sales price ratios and everything else that I wanted to know about real estate in the community that they were playing in. Because the fact is, everybody wants to talk about that stuff. So you're always, otherwise HGTV wouldn't be so popular, right? So you become the expert and you're just talking, right? It's not a conversation of, do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell or invest in real estate? Because for me, that just feels icky. Yeah. It just feels icky and it doesn't feel real and genuine. So I think when I really realized it started working was really in that second year when I went from really like 12 to 45. And when you see that 80% really of my business was coming from this business to business referral and then their friends, right? Because it's not just the first tier, it's friends of friends of friends. And it was all coming from those people that I met with in that first year.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm a systems guy. So I'm going to recap this a little bit. It's just like, all right, so you're going to the mob. You're also going to some other networking functions. And then you're doing, 30-minute teas or what I called coffees, right? Or maybe even the occasional lunch was sprinkled in or a breakfast. And so you're taking the group and you're just filtering them by bringing them to the one-to-one, right? Now, when did you do your first event? When did you do your first event? That was you were the host or the hostess. You're the one that's actually inviting people in. When did you do that?
So I started real estate in July 2017, and my first event was December. And I learned something really early on about the event piece, which is that if you can plug into something that's already happening, do that. Because then you don't have to start everything from scratch. So at the brokerage I was at the time, they had a Christmas event with Santa and horses and whatever. So the first thing that I did was I invited people that was the very first event. And it was easy because it was already there.
That's right.
Then the next event that.
All right, hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So you did a piggyback event, what we call a piggyback, right? It's
Yes.
taking somebody else's event and you do a little event inside or outside.
With little gifts for my clients specifically, but yes.
They had to come to you though, right? So they had to come to you for that. And then it's like an event within an event within an event. I hope everybody heard that before we get to her first solo event. It is a piggyback event is a phenomenal first event because you're going to use all their marketing, all their hype, all their, communication. Everybody's going to maybe kind of go anyway. And all you're doing, instead of making them create a path to your office or to you, they already know the path and you're just asking them to take a stop along the path. So piggyback events are phenomenal ways to get started. I love that. All right. Now we're taking a jump though. We're doing our first event. We're now inviting people to our office, but thank God we've got a base of people who like to go to events because we've been going to those events. We know they like events, right? So what was your first event?
So it was interesting because I thought it was a piggyback event, but then it turned out that it really wasn't one of those. What I decided to do was I didn't just want to invite my clients. It was really important for me that an element of this, because I was a newer agent, also invited the community so that I can have them in my database so that you can love on your clients, but you can also attract new ones. So the reason I say that I thought it was a piggyback event was because I was in a new brokerage and I heard that they had a trick or treat around the office, just like literally around the office. And so I thought that meant that they were inviting their clients to do that, but it wasn't. They were just asking for the agents to bring their own families around the office. And I thought that was kind of lame. So
for sure.
I at first I thought that this was just an opportunity for my clients to come to the office. And then I realized I could make this something that was much bigger. So we have a big training room in the office and we had a movie, like a Halloween movie playing that was good for kids. We had Halloween crafts, we had music, we had trick or treat station, all sorts of good stuff. And that was really my first event. And I was able to add about 100 people into the database, which was wonderful because everything that I do is through Eventbrite. And the reason I do it that way is because I'm capturing their name and their email address. And even if they don't come, it's not about the event, right, Michael? Like, it's not about the event. The events are always fun and I love them, but it's not about the event. It's about the follow-up and it's about the communication to invite them. So even if they didn't show up, I still have the opportunity to now have their information in my database and follow up. But we did have about 100 people that I was able to add to the database. And then, of course, events beget other events, right? So if they like the Halloween event, and then I have to say that what changed everything was COVID, because we really couldn't have those big inside events anymore. And so, of course, just like every other real estate agent, I'm sure you've seen the memes about Costco and real estate agents and the big pies and all of that. We had to really switch gears and figure out how we were going to do events differently. And the one event that I would really like to highlight is something that came, what do they say? Mother is the necessity, right, of all invention, or whatever it's called. But basically you have to come up with something different because you can't keep doing the things the way that they were. And for me, what that was an ice cream social for my community. And it was on the last day of school, that first year of COVID, where children weren't going to school. And I live in a community that's new construction. There's a lot of families here. And really this event was, let's make a day to celebrate our children during one of literally the hardest
years ever.
The hardest, like 4 months or something we had ever been through at that point. So I had a local ice cream place, because I'm big into shopping locally, come in and have a cart and scoop ice cream. And there was no limit. I mean, it was limited to one per child, but there was no limit to who could come. And I have thousands.
You invited everybody. Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah. Everybody was in our community social media page. Everybody got a door hanger. And of course, I asked my partners, which I know we'll get into, to help fund all of that. And what started off as an event that first year in 2020 with 50 families. Last year, we had 383 families come. And it sincerely came out of a feeling to celebrate our children, and really turned into something which I don't actually do, which is it actually turned out to be a pretty darn good thing for farming, which is just not one of my legs of lead generation, but it's sort of combining farming with.
Well, events. It is now, right? I mean, and it's why not if it's your own neighborhood? It just makes sense. And it forces you to get to know the neighbors and everything else. And there's nothing like driving out of your own neighborhood and seeing some other person's sign, right? There's nothing like that. Even, you're like, well, I don't really work, this as hard as I should. So I don't, it's like, no, it still irritates, right? It's like, no, we want them all. So, and they should list with us, right? I mean, if you think, they should list with us. We have a vested interest in the neighborhood. Like, we want the values to be as high as possible. So anyway, and I could walk to the showing. So, but it's one of those where I love that you started with 50 and you had 50 during COVID. And it also kind of goes into, you were the only event around, and that's still a thing. Like, if you're a realtor, and there are so many realtors who are not using events as a lead generation mechanism, and they're missing out. We hear about it online. I mean, when I started talking about this 10 years ago, everybody was maybe doing one event a year or 0 events a year, and the one event, they'd have a Christmas party and everybody'd come. They'd never get any referrals from it, or nobody had any sponsors for it. Nobody associated with a charity and that kind of thing. And now, it's kind of become the rage as people find out it really feels good and it's a lot of fun. And you also can get leads and referrals out of it. So,
and I think you also figure out what works and what doesn't. We have playground events where it's casual with my clients. And so that's not necessarily a community event. That's just kind of with my clients that we've had, Christmas movie nights and all of that. But we wanted to also figure out, just sort of combine our efforts into something that actually was successful all the way around. And I have learned, I think, to really hone in on that in the last couple of years, to keep doing the events that my clients love, that the community loves, but maybe you don't have to do an event every, month and a half. And it has to be a good return on investment for your time, if nothing else. And I did over the years figure out what worked and what didn't. And it really culminated in really the most successful event I've ever had to date, which was just a couple of weeks ago. And it really is just trial and error, figuring out what my clients like, what I like, what I want to do, and also what's going on in the world. Some people, the outside thing during COVID was perfect because they didn't have to worry about these inside events, but people desperately wanted to see each other. So we had at that first ice cream event, we had sidewalk chalk and we had hula hoops and bubble makers because we wanted the children to enjoy themselves, but in a safe way, because that's just where we were at that time.
Well, I love it. And in a lot of cases, if you're looking to give back to the community, an event is an answer, of some sort. It could even be like you said with the playground is, if there's a playground that's really active, you take a cooler of water and pop, you win. Like, you just made that event your event, and all you did was provide the food and drink, So I think there's a great opportunity. I mean, people think an event has to be this convoluted 5-page checklist, and no, an event is just 3 people or more, right? 1's a solo or a unit, 2's a couple, 3's a crowd. 3's a crowd. Have 3 people, you have an event, and you can work from there. All right. So how many, and maybe you don't have the answer to this, but give me an estimate. How many total events have you done in your 5 to 6 years of business? Not attended, but actually hosted or co-hosted.
Yeah. So client plus community events, I've probably done around 25 at this point. And they run very small to very large. And by very small and intimate, I just had an afternoon tea for some clients, 15 of us that became friends, kind of just the people that are just my allies, right? My allied resources. And I'm doing a sober New Year's Eve party from 7 to 9 p.m. with with some of these people as well, with their children, and we're all friends, and it's just to kind of network and hang out. But it is, it absolutely is also networking, but just in a more casual way. The last event I had, we had about 375 people attend, and were able to donate 285 pies to the food pantry. And we went home with carloads and carloads of food. We had a dog rescue there who adopted out 2 doggies and had, carloads and carloads of donated food. And, these elements of giving back to the community are really a cornerstone of our personal life as well as our business life. But so they really range, these little teeny micro events to kind of big community plus client events.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Great comment. We use the terms of Top Yap and All Yap, right? You've got that Top Yap, which is a Top Yap event is the yearly ambassador program. And therefore ambassadors, champions, like you said, more intimate. They're the top people, highly energetic, highly successful, highly connected, lots of fun. They're just different, right? And what we want to do is with those ambassadors, we want to keep them ambassadoring, because if they don't ambassador us, they're going to ambassador somebody else, because that is their nature. And so, that yearly ambassador program is, for us, it's been, 4 events a year, once a quarter, and it's, intimate, like you were talking about, just, either that for them or for them and their families. And then the All Yap is for everyone. All means everyone. You're going to invite the entire community, everybody including past clients, but we're not going to call it a client appreciation event. It's going to be a community event. And All Yap is it's yearly appreciation plan. And that's that yearly appreciation plan for your community. And so we have 3 of those a year, right? And we discovered over time that, kind of having 4 months allowed our sponsor partners to breathe and kind of enjoy it and invest in it. But it gave us time to invite, confirm, have the event. And then it gave us plenty of time to follow up afterwards, and sometimes our follow-up would be a month after we got 218 or 313 referrals or whatever it was. We needed 4 weeks to follow up. And it's just, I love what you're doing. And I love, where your heart is the number one thing that I love is, you're not doing it for lead generation, but it just happens to be a huge lead gen format. All right. You've talked about a lot of events, and, having 25 events, you've done a lot of events. What is your favorite event? What is your favorite event?
My favorite event, and again, remember, I'm doing micro and macro, and then I've got a third category, which is just for my service providers.
Yeah.
And that event is my favorite.
Okay. I love that.
The reason it's my favorite is because, let's be honest, the house cleaners, the painters, the landscapers, all of the people that I'm recommending and referring throughout the year, they're not making the kind of money that I make from one transaction. So I want them to know that they are valued, that I honor them, that I respect them. I appreciate their business. I appreciate not them just sending people to me, but the fact that they do such good work for my clients. And
when do you do that?
We do it's called a gratitude event, and it's every February. Last year, we had about 80 folks show up. This is the one event that I do not get sponsors for. I do not ask the people at my event.
You don't ask the sponsors to sponsor the sponsor event? What? Maybe we're missing something here, Aubrey.
It's the one thing that I pay for.
Yeah.
It's a dinner. We rotate every year depending on, I just put them in different parts of the community because, not all of my service providers live on one side of town. So we switch it up. Also, I always only choose local businesses, restaurants, and catering. And that is my favorite event. And the reason it's my favorite event is, number one, I think to be mindful of gratitude is so important. And the other thing that happens, which I find to be incredible, is there are all of these people in the room who don't know each other. And by the end of the event, they do. So now they have made these connections amongst each other and are now working together on projects because of a dinner where they met, casually just through this. It's phenomenally rewarding. And I would say it's part of my give back
Yeah.
I consider that kind of part of my give back to them is thanking them, providing them a nice meal for them and their family, but also giving them that opportunity to make some excellent connections with people that they don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so critical. The old ABC was A, always B, C, closing, right? It's always be closing, and everything was about a closing technique. You literally, there's A through Z closing technique or script, right? And that's gone, right? I mean, people know when you're trying to close them and they don't appreciate it. Versus the new ABC of the generosity generation, in my opinion, is A, always B, C, connecting. Always be connecting. And we need to connect with ourselves, right? First, love yourself, connect with yourself, connect one-to-one with others. And then the beauty of event mastery is that we aren't just connecting with others in a one-to-many type of format. We're also, all those other people are connecting with each other. And like, we don't have to be there for that. We're adding value through leverage and scale that you can't get in any other form of lead generation or mechanism. So the nice thing is that, here's what's beautiful. Your window person meets a handyman and they connect and they start doing business together. Who do they thank for that? They don't thank each other. They don't, they thank you for that. And a connection, when we connect one person to another, 3 people win. I mean, it's win, win, win. We win too. How much does it cost us? It doesn't cost us anything to connect to other people, and they remember it forever. That is one of the powers of this that I think too many people just really, really underestimate. And
I think sometimes we make it harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
And when you talk about those 30-minute one-to-one teas, part of the reason I did that is I was a new agent and it cost me nothing.
Yeah.
It's a tea bag and hot water in my office. We're not even going to Starbucks. So we don't have to make it as hard. I don't think lead generation in general is as hard as you have to make it, as people make it out to be, as long as you're coming from the right place.
Well, when it feels good. I mean, Aubrey, for us, it's not hard because we're doing stuff that's fun, and we have a system that creates opportunity from it. So it's this is lead gen. That's the other thing that you and I got to remember is this is lead gen. This is our lead gen. I don't know about you. It's not natural for me. People are like, wow, you're just natural. Yeah. You're seeing me 10,000 meetings later. Yeah, right. I am better than when I started, though I will screw it up still, but it's like, we've chosen this route, right? Because it feels good. And it's amazing when lead generation can feel good. Cold calling never felt good for me. Door knocking never felt good for me.
And from that pie event that I just did, I mean, everybody hands out pies for sure, right? That's like a real estate thing. But knowing that we were able to help serve 285 families with those pies, not my clients, not the people that came to the event, but to the food pantry. Those people who will likely never be clients, but who cares? It makes you feel like you're doing some good in the world in a time when things feel very separate. There's tons of strife. There's really so much sadness. And I was at that event for 12 hours between setup and the event and teardown, as were my children. And I felt when my head hit the bed that night, I felt good. Yeah. I felt like I had done something that mattered. And get business from it, yes, but the other piece of it was much more impactful.
Well, I love that. So let's talk sponsors, right? Let's talk how we partner, and we make events, not I events. We make them into we events, right? We make them a win for not just us, but also our sponsor partners and partners who have the event. So did you get them from the very beginning, or is this something you grew into?
No, I didn't, because I didn't even think about doing it that way. And then I realized that these events are successful and it's going to get expensive. I run at about 82 to 83% net on my closings, and I like to keep it that way. Yep. So I had to figure out how to do things better. And the first way that I decided to do that was to start inviting some of my partners to these events, just so they could see what I was doing. Yep. And I'm not asking people to sponsor who I don't know or haven't worked with and haven't recommended a million times.
Right.
And I also thought bigger. It's not just your lender. It's not just your escrow title person, who can bring some waters or whatever because of RESPA. That it's your contractor can do it. Your health insurance agent can do it. Anybody can really do it. The question is how do we provide value to those sponsors and make sure that they are recognized? And I think the reason why sponsors are so open to working with me, number one, is because I'm already recommending them all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But also, if you remember what I said earlier about my closings, is I'm tagging all of these people all of the time.
Yeah.
So if they are also sponsoring, they know because they've seen how I show up for people that help me, whether it's monetarily or through their time and efforts. So asking them to be sponsors was not difficult because they've already been to my events and they see what I do and they see how I promote it and they see how I promote the people that are helping me, whether, through money or not.
Yep.
It wasn't a hard ask. I do not ask the same sponsors to sponsor all of the things. And I'm also not doing as many events anymore.
Right.
I'm doing less events that are more impactful and meaningful. I like, for example, for my events like my afternoon tea that I have, it's at my home. So the cost of it is very nominal and there's 15 people there. I'm not asking for a sponsorship for that. I can take care of that. But for the larger events, these folks have shown up. And so they see the value of it. They can have a table. They can have their name sponsorship on the pie, on a sticker. They can do whatever it is that they want. It's really just to promote their business and to be grateful for their business.
Well, that's fantastic. And I hope everybody noted the strategy of inviting potential sponsors to your events so that they can see the success. They can feel the energy of the event. And when they feel the energy and see the happiness, they tend to want to get involved. And the way for them to get involved is as a sponsor partner. And so I guess one question that I have is who were some of your first sponsor partners? Who were some of the first that jumped on? Let's give them some shout outs, here in the beginning.
Yeah. So the very first one of them was my lender at Academy Mortgage. And not only did she sponsor and help me, this was that Halloween crazy event, but not only did she sponsor it, but she also helped check people in and was very much part of the excitement of everything. She also did a raffle for a television. And so we were able to kind of get names that way. So Natalie James over at Academy was my first sponsor. And so that's where that started. And of course, lenders, escrow title people can do, they can bring drinks and food and all that kind of great stuff. And don't discount that because that stuff can cost you a lot of money. Right. So if you can get that, even if they're not giving you cash because they're not legally allowed to, they can still do other things. At that ice cream social, the second one I ever did, I had a title escrow person come and bring the bubbles and the hula hoops and the waters and all of that. Yep. That was just, and they were there to actually have a table and hand that stuff out. So they got that recognition. And it was one less thing I had to do. Yeah. The one thing that I would say about events is like really leverage out where you can. And I don't just mean the money. Yeah. I also mean the energy and the
people
organizing.
Yeah. And the staffing.
You need people. You need people. And even if they can't donate their money because they can't for whatever reason, a lot of people are very happy to throw in the time, and you should honor that by giving them a sponsorship shout out just as much as the person who gave you $1,000.
That's right. I love that. And so what do you know what your total spend on events was this year? How many events did you have? And just approximate for me. You don't have to necessarily be ultra specific, but like what did it cost and how much was it covered by sponsors, like as a percentage?
Yeah. So we did 5 events in total this year, and we're not having any more this year. Yeah. The total spend as far as sponsorships was 93%. Because the one that I pay for is that gratitude dinner, but everything else is basically paid for by the sponsors, everything.
So what you're saying, there's a point here. what you're saying is that this is a way that you can make money making money, right? Is that, I mean, now you made a choice to make it 93%. It could have been 103%, right? I mean, you could have had sponsors for different things, or you could ask for more money than you even need to throw the event. And that's not a bad thing either. But it's like you basically paid 7% for marketing for a lead gen system that generated let's just approximate with your events, how many transactions came directly from people who had been at the events or been referred from people who were at the events? Like
so in 2023 so far, not counting that last event in October, so because I don't know what that's going to generate, but 16.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. And what's your average sales price?
Average sales price is around $550, and so average commission is somewhere around 11,000 or so.
Yeah. So 11 times 15, is that what it was?
16.
16. Yeah. So what, 176,000? That am I figuring that right in my head very quickly?
Yes.
So not a bad return, right? Not a bad return. I think there's a lot of people that would take that. But what they have to realize is that there's no marketing cost there. Like this is, 7% is her total cost. And, but not only that, but that's many, many transactions in the future too. This grows on itself versus an expired. It doesn't, you call the expired, you sell it, you're done, so it's one of those where this grows, as you go. And do you know do you have an idea for what your coverage will be in 2024?
I don't yet, because I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do for events. They're the staples that I know that I'm always going to do, but I think things change. And I think that the days of me doing an event every month and a half are done. I think that I've sort of evolved into something different, and I want something different out of my time as well. So I'm not 100% sure, but I know that I'll be doing the gratitude dinner. I know that I'll be doing the ice cream event. I know that I'll be doing this pie event for sure. Just because I love that kind of offering back to the community. We do something called Street of Dreams, which is a big kind of tour of fancy houses over here. And I've been doing that event for years, again, just sort of connecting into an event that's already there, but we provide our clients with picnic lunch. I had a past client who is a caterer. So we're paying her to do the catering, someone who, again, is kind of an allied resource. I really work on trying to promote people as much as possible. And I want events that really reflect that.
Yeah. And that's why the sponsor partners keep signing up with you, is because you're not just taking the money and run. What you're doing is you're reinvesting in them in big ways. You're posting on, Facebook and social media and tagging them when the sales come through and when they help people. You've got Aubrey's list, which is your directory that is helping people. You're always ABC. You're always be connecting. You always be connecting, and you're given to them throughout the entire year. And then at the event, you're giving them all a shout out and talking about how great they are. And at this point, because you've become known as a connector in the community, what has happened is your endorsement's worth thousands. Your endorsement is worth money. It's got a lot of value. When you say use this window person, people use that window person. There's no hesitation. There's no doubt. It's a 100% referral type of situation. I love what you're doing. You're doing fantastic. And one quick question on the sponsor partners is how do you get them? Right. So I understand that they attend your events and then they say, I want to get involved. That's one way. Is there a text that you send out and say, hey, listen, we're looking at our events for next year. Do you want to be included? Right. And then you take the conversation from there. Or is there any formal process that you have to line up your sponsors?
There really isn't anything formal, because I feel like I do it in the same vein as I talk to my clients, which is just be transparent and vulnerable and real, which is just to say, hey, do you remember that event from last year? Do you have any interest in helping out this year? And we do different sponsorship levels on those large events. I don't do it on smaller events, but on larger events, so that they can see, sort of what the return on investment would be at each level. But no, it's really not, because again, honestly, Michael, at the end of the day, these are people that I know really well. And so it doesn't have to be anything super formal, because sometimes it's honestly just a text of like, hey, like Alicia, we're doing that ice cream event again. I expect it to be, we have 4 other sponsors lined up. And then sometimes sponsors fall out because maybe they didn't have an awesome year, but that's fine. Cause then I've got, a home warranty person over there. I mean, I know the people that are wanting to help out and who have, been there in the past, and we try to keep it fresh. And if they can't sponsor, they can't sponsor. But I'll say that, I like to think in a small way that I am part of what helps keep these folks in a job and in business. I'm going to close 55 houses this year, in a year that was challenging, to say the least. And I know that that's in no small part due to the people that show up and sponsor these events.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've helped them a ton too through those transactions. It's got to
be a win-win,
right?
just like you said earlier. It's got to be a win-win.
And the other thing too is that traditionally, a lot of these businesses are very poor at marketing, or they're technicians, not entrepreneurs. They're really good at doing inspections, but they're not good at marketing. They're not good at being an entrepreneur. So we fill a role, we fill a space in there. We are their marketing arm. We are, when we have events, we are doing their marketing for them. So, what could their marketing budget be? Well, they don't have to have that marketing budget because they're going to be a part of our 3 big events, and that's what they're going to spend money on. What's different? They get to meet the people. Whereas marketing, they're marketing, who knows, who they're marketing to. Oh
my gosh, that face-to-face, there's nothing that can replace that. Nothing.
And they're being endorsed. Yeah. Not only are they there, I mean, there's some events where the sponsor booths and they walk by like herds of cattle and there's no but no, this is different. When you're going, hey, listen, this mortgage professional is the best. At least a third of our clients pick Michelle. Michelle is the best. Michelle Phillips, you got to check her out, even if it's for a refi, a cash out refi, kids going to college, whatever it may be, or a mortgage on your next home. You need to talk to Michelle. What's that worth? I mean, it's worth a ton. And so I love that part of it. And what's so funny is there's going to be people listening to this podcast or watching this podcast on YouTube, and they're going to be going, well, what's the script? Like, what script is she using to get the sponsor partners? And there's no script. It's connectivity. And the script is, hey, listen, you want to be a part of this event? And they go yes or no. Mostly they go yes. And they go, okay, I need you to do the water. I need you to do the venue. I need you to do this, or hey, listen, just do a donation. And it's one of those where there's no script when you have great relationships. You don't have to use a script. You can just be you, and people want to be a part of that. So, I think that's why I asked that question is, all right, tell me what it's like to get sponsors. And, there's people are looking for the script. You just nailed it. I just build a relationship with them all year round, and they contribute to these events because they know they're getting value from it.
And I, honestly, what I tell my partners when I first am starting a relationship with them, and this is really true, we're going to have tea or whatever it is, just like we still do, to get to know each other that first time. Yep. But after that, I personally do not need to be wined and dined, taken out to lunch. I don't care about any of those things. Yep. I don't have time and I don't care. What I'm looking for is, are you good to my people? Are you good to my clients? Do you show up? If you are loyal to me, I will be loyal to you. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm the only agent that they have to be loyal to, and that I don't need much from them. I just need them to have good service. And if they have good service, they're always going to be in my directories. They're always going to be people that I refer to, that I shout out all the time, because that's all I really need is for them to show up. And I don't expect anything more from them than I expect from myself, which is just be good to my clients, be nice people, and, help out when you can.
Yeah. And I think that's another great way to justify a sponsor partner is that, let's say I'm a normal client of yours. How many times are you going to take me to lunch during a year? Right? Maybe 4 to 6 times. Well, that's going to be $100-$200. Why don't you just do, $200 towards this event, and we don't have to do the lunches.
That's
so
right.
I think knowing that is just a part of it. And by the way, I don't take me to lunch like that. That's not going to be the way it works probably. So
right. And not for me, right? It doesn't work for me. And it's not a good usage of my time personally.
Yeah. All right. So I have 3 questions left. All right.
Okay.
And I really want to know these answers. And I first is just Aubrey, this has been brilliant. This has been awesome. I love you, and I don't even know you. And you're from Portland, which makes it even more surprising that I loved you so quickly. But I'm just kidding to my Portland friends out there. All right. So what motivates you? Like, what drives you?
I think that I've always been, before I was in real estate, in some sort of capacity of an educator. And I really have always lived by the adage of money is good for the good that money can do. And I personally, we are comfortable. My children are healthy. Thank God they've got a roof over their head. We don't need much. I have been on my own since I was 16. I lived in the projects in New York City. I've had a lot and I've had nothing. So I don't put a ton of value in just bankrolling everything. I do think that we're on this earth for a really short time. And I feel like I have, because in real estate, we are those connectors of people. I have this capacity not only to help people like nonprofits, but also help people's businesses grow just by introducing them, which costs nothing. So what drives me is this idea that when I hit the pillow every night, that I feel like I've done something good in the world, more than help someone sell a home, more than help someone buy a home. Those are also great assets and in their own right. But I need something more than that. And I think most high producers in real estate, it cannot be transactional. I don't know anybody in high production real estate that are purely transactional. It has to come from something deeper. And for me, the deeper part is I want to create something where when my children grow up, that they can be proud of me, that they can live in a world which is maybe a little bit kinder because of something our family has done. That's what drives me.
You can drop the mic. That's powerful. And I heard that. And, the hour we've had a chance to hang out with each other, I've heard that throughout. So it's so consistent and in alignment with, everything else. And I love that. So the last 2 questions, is what would you say to someone who is maybe hesitating to start networking?
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people are afraid to do networking if they're not extroverted. And you can be successful in networking regardless of what your personality type is. I have a really dear friend who I'm actually on my way to go see, who's a past client. And her company is Fancy That, and she does gift giving. So I use her for all of my personal gifts, teacher gifts, and all that kind of stuff. Stockings, don't tell my kids about that part. And she also does my welcome home baskets and all of that. She might be one of the most introverted people that I know. She's quiet. She is nervous in big crowds. She is also a hugely successful member of my BNI, which is my Business Networking International. I've been part of that group now for a number of years. And it was hard in the beginning for her to show up to these things because she felt awkward. But I think that if you really go in there knowing that everybody feels a little awkward, and that if you're coming from a place of service, of wanting to know about them, it takes the onus off of you.
That's right.
If you stop talking about yourself, although I have really spent an hour doing that, but in normal conversations,
I forced you to. I
don't do this normally. So,
yeah.
If the onus is no longer on yourself and is on really just trying to find out about them, a lot of that fear, I think, goes away. And I think it would surprise people to know that a lot of real estate agents are not totally extroverted. I'm an introverted extrovert, which means that I can turn it on, but then at the end of the day, I need a lot of downtime to
solo time,
chill, because it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of, you're absorbing a lot of stuff. Yeah. So you can do networking and be really successful at networking if you come from the right place. And the right place is, don't make it about you, make it about them.
Love that. All right. What would you say to someone who has never thrown in an event for their business?
Oh, that's an easy one. The easiest thing to me is do not reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be everything to everybody. You don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. Like, don't look at whatever everybody else is doing. Do the thing that makes you feel comfortable and do it at a high level. And do not forget that the success in an event comes from the invite and the follow through. If they can't come or don't show, don't be offended, don't be upset. Who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It's really about the invite and the follow through. You don't have to make it a huge event. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Do the thing that you love doing and invite your friends and your community to go around with you doing that thing. That's it.
Wow. So funleadgeneration.com, funprospecting.com. I tell you, Aubrey, this has been so enjoyable. I didn't know you before. Like I said, I went from not knowing you to loving you in 1 hour, essentially. And I love where your heart is. I love where and you know, but you can be all cart, all heart, or all heart, no cart. Right. You can be all heart and not be successful, not have wealth, you know. And you know, what's the different strategy? You've got strategies on this. And you know, a lot of that was things that you just kind of developed over time for yourself that worked for you. And I love the mob to your 30-minute teas, your one-to-ones, doing 15 a week. I mean, just imagine in 1 week, you went from not knowing anyone to knowing 15 people, probably as well as their spouses knew those people in 15 meetings. And I mean, you're talking 4 weeks later, you had met 60, let's say it's even 50. I mean, you went from a sphere of 0 to 50 in a month, but this isn't a light sphere. This is a strong sphere of people who only know you as a realtor, and they only know you from a real, genuine, like, conversation. They know you better than anybody else they might refer. I mean, 50 in a month. So, and then you did the they events, and you kind of ran this networking play of they events to one-to-ones, very powerful. And then you graduated, I would say, to the we events and hosting events and inviting not only the mob, but everybody else to your events, and you became the center of connectivity, right? The center of connection for a lot of people. And you didn't just stop with one. You've done 25 over 5 years. And through that process, you've added sponsors who defray that cost. It's still lead generation for you, but it doesn't cost you very much, if any at all. And everybody wins. I can't think of a business model in the world that is more beneficial, more friendly, more fun than what we've outlined today. Can you think of anything that serves the community better than connecting everybody in the community together? So I love all of this, Aubrey. I just want to say thank you so much for being our guest here on Referrals Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a treat in chatting. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get a hold of Aubrey, it's Aubrey Martin. She's in Portland metro area, Hillsboro, Oregon, and her website is martinfamilyrealestate.com. You can also check out her directory that is on that website. I encourage you, when it comes to Portland real estate, that you connect with her. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you what, this has been fantastic. Hope you enjoyed every minute of it. I know what our next Referrals podcast is too, and I'm not sure if there's a 1-2 punch that's going to be better than this one, and then the next one is the punch 2. I hope you guys will tune in next time. We'll see you next time on Referrals Podcast. Thanks, everybody.